So today I want to talk to you about the topic of the week, the appearance for the first time in decades of a European brown bear in Białowieża Forest. So all week we've all been incredibly excited about this new development, asking ourselves questions like, where has he come from? Is he going to stay? And is this a new era in the history of the brown bear in Białowieża Forest? So join me in this short video while I walk around the types of areas where the bear has been spotted over the last few days, and I'll try to answer some of these questions. At the same time, I'm going to be looking out for bear tracks and bear scats. Hopefully we'll find some. So to put this fascinating new bear development into a bit of context for you, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the species in Białowieża Forest. So once upon a time the bear used to inhabit the whole of the northern hemisphere, but the gradually encroaching and expanding human population pushed it out of many areas due to hunting and habitat loss. And now Białowieża Forest should have been a safe refuge for the species, being basically in its entirety a primeval forest up until very recently. But the Russian colonial administration regarded the bear as a pest and set up an extermination program, which pushed it to extinction in Białowieża Forest by the end of the 19th century. And so before I carry on with the story of the bear, I just wanted to show you something cool. It's at my favourite lunch spot that I've been stopping at every day for the last couple of months to admire the view and admire the changes that are happening in the forest as we go through the seasons. Basically, a huge tree has fallen down over it. Take a look. So someone's already cleared it off the road, but you can see the bulk of the trunk over here. And yeah, it was standing on that stump over there. And this exemplifies quite nicely one of my favourite things about the forest, because although trees grow slowly, they do eventually die, fall down, take a long time to rot, but underneath them the new generation of trees grows. So do the flowers, and a lot of mushrooms appear. And sometimes, once every 50 years, a bear hops over the border. So I just figured this tree would be quite a cool spot to perch myself on and tell you about the next part of the story. So aside from a failed reintroduction program in the interwar period, bears were absent from Białowieża Forest ever since they went extinct at the end of the 19th century. Until last week, that is. We heard reports from a colleague at a neighbouring research institute that he'd been spotted in the forest during some of their research activities. But no one had actually provided any documented evidence that this had happened. That was until he wandered into one of our research plots. So I was just in the middle of telling you the story of the bear, but then I started hearing some noises coming from underneath me, and it sounds like there's some kind of animal here. Check it out, he's still making the noises. I guess it's some kind of mouse or vole. Well, whatever animal it is, it sounds like it's getting pretty irate. So I guess he might be on top of its nest and we're disturbing him. So maybe we should leave. So I hope that vole or whatever it was wasn't too disturbed by us sitting above him. In any case, where was I? So yeah, last week during one of our routine checks of our camera shots, we had an incredible surprise. It was just a recording of a bear. He presumably wandered into our study plot while searching for food, judging by the fact that he's rummaging around on top and below the experimental tray. He didn't find any and probably left quite disappointed, but he left us over the moon because we'd achieved the first video recording of a bear in Białowieża Forest. So the big question on everyone's mind is, where's the bear come from? He's obviously come from Belarus. But the thing is, Western Belarus doesn't have a bear population. The nearest bears are 200 kilometers away in Naliboki Forest, which is in central Belarus just by the capital, Minsk. And a quick inspection on Google Earth of possible migration routes or ecological corridors doesn't come up with anything obvious, which makes it all the more impressive. This fragmented forest and various river valleys which the bear must have used to make his own ecological corridor. And now that he's hopped over the Polish-Belarusian border, he's wandering around a landscape like this. And because bears have been absent from Białowieża Forest for so long, we don't have a great idea of what he could be eating. And this is one of the main reasons actually we're looking for a bear scat this week. It's one of our main tasks. And although that sounds pretty awful, like why would you want bear shit, you can do all sorts of interesting science with it. We can send it off to a lab, genotype the bear, we could find out basically his genetic tree, family tree. We can find out where he might have come from. Moreover, we can genotype the food inside the poo, which allows us to find out what he would have been eating over the last few days. So, I'm quite experienced with tracking wolves, and you track wolves by looking for their prints, their poo, or in the winter you can also find yellow stains, which are their pee markings in the snow. But for bears, well, I know their prints are huge, great feet, something like you'd imagine a Yeti foot to look like. I don't really have a good idea of what their poo looks like. And so I've just stumbled upon a wolf scat. And that's what I'd be looking for if I was tracking a wolf. But we're tracking bears this week. So the all-important question on everyone's mind is, will the bear stay and become the first ever resident bear population in Białowieża Forest? Or will he hop back over the border to Belarus from whence he came? And we can't really predict the answer to that question. We know that young male bears often go off on extremely large migrations in search of new territories and females. And even though Białowieża Forest is perfect bear habitat, there aren't any females here for the bear to mate with. And this might cause him to go off and migrate further to take his chances with females elsewhere. But on the other hand, male bears have been known to sit tight and wait for adventurous females to join them in their new habitat. Only time will tell whether this is a new era in the history of the bear in Białowieża Forest. One thing's for certain, this one lonely migrant male bear has raised all sorts of interesting questions, such as if bears colonise Białowieża Forest, how will they interact with the other species in the forest? Moreover, and perhaps more importantly, how will bears interact with the local human community? Will there be conflicts, or will there be harmony, or something in between? Tune in next week for my thoughts on these other important questions.